And
So you want me just to kind of free flow my origin story to you?
yeah, wherever your heart takes you, what wherever you want to start, and wherever, yeah, just like.
Okay, so I was so excited when I got your email because I have a really interesting and juicy origin story.
Okay.
So, what I always tell people is that the way I got into entrepreneurship is it all started with $1 million lick. So, do you know what a lick is?
I
You know
mean,
what
I know
hitting a
what a
lick
lick
is?
is. Like, I know the general definition of a lick, but
Yeah, so
yeah.
like just in case anyone watches is not sure, like hitting a lick is just slang for stealing something pretty much.
Okay.
And my someone who I thought was my friend put me in a position where um it turned out I wasn't, but I thought I was being framed for $1 million digital fraud.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Whoa.
So let me back up and say like what that means. So rewind. This is like the $1 million lick email. I got it like, I don't know. It was like November 2020.
Okay.
So if we back up, I graduated from college in December 2019
Hmm.
with information systems degree. And this person who I, I would say I thought they were my friend because obviously they're not.
Yeah.
But I don't really know what else to call it. So I would say my ex business partner,
Hmm.
who, and I know this person very well. We grew up together. We were in middle school together. We played volleyball together. Like,
Yeah.
I really thought I was very close with this person. But pretty much when I went to college, she got pregnant and became a single mother. And I don't think because of that, I think just it was just a very interesting point in our lives where we both went down completely different paths, even
Hmm.
though up until that point we had a lot in common.
Yeah.
And also when you go to college, you're gone for years. So when you come back, people are different. Like
Right.
that was like a really big wake up call for me. Like you don't know these people. Like a lot can happen in 5 or 6 years. It took me 6 or 7 years to graduate college. So a lot can happen, and it did. So I graduated college in December. We had been in touch on Facebook throughout college. You know, I would come home sometimes, we'd hang out. We both have birthdays in September. We had spent our 21st birthday together a few years prior. So we're both excited. I'm graduating, I'm moving home. And a few months before I graduate, she is like letting me know she's getting into cosmetology school. I'm so proud of her. She's really getting into doing the individual lashes, and this is like before it popped. Like
Hmm.
now, lashes are everywhere. She was ahead of the curve, like
Yeah.
really ahead of the curve. Um, and she got certified. And she, Facebook messaged me one day, probably about a month or two before I graduate, like, "Hey, do you know how to do websites?" And with my major being in information systems, we learned coding, we learned how to build apps, we learned all kinds of um, technical and especially skills of connecting technology with business and using it to make money.
Hmm.
So I was like, yeah, I literally just learned that in class like yesterday.
Yeah.
Like it was crazy. When she texted me, I had literally just learned it in class like that week. So
Yeah.
I was like, cool, yeah, let's do it. When I graduate, January, we get together. We're both serious. Um, and it's amazing, actually. I got her website stood up. I got her social media stood up. She had a good following just from being like a local, very like vibrant person, but I
Hmm.
helped her become more strategic and post in certain ways to where instead of it just being a Facebook page, it was social media marketing that was
Yeah.
turning into money and into appointments
Hmm.
and kind of setting up. I guess what you would call a very like very simple funnels, and things like that. Just teaching her, you want people to come from here to there and there. You want to show them the product. You want to have your prices. So it was really cool actually, because I saw with my own eyes over the next 6 to 9 months her going from practicing on me and taking 4 hours to do one eye to having appointments back to back to back booked a month out ahead.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. Like, so I did her website, and then me coming from business school, I was also advising her, of course. So I advised her to get her LLC, her business bank account, which I took her through all of it. At this point, I was acting in the capacity of business manager. So it's her business, but I'm, consulting her, managing her. She has a vision, and I know what the different steps are to get there. And we were doing it. It was cool.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, I had moved into a 2-bedroom apartment when I moved back home, because I wanted an office. And also, I have a sister with disabilities, and I wanted her to have a space to spend the night if she wanted to, kind of have an extra guest room type vibe. So I had an extra room, and at some point my friend she was in cosmetology. There's this weird limbo sometimes people are in, where they're not done with school, so they don't have their license, but they've been in school, so they have all these cosmetology skills. But you're not allowed to work in these establishments that have, the licenses on the walls and permits. You're not allowed to work there until you have your license.
Okay.
But she had a huge clientele who was fine with it. They just wanted their lashes done. So we turned my 2nd bedroom into a lash studio, which was
Oh, okay.
super fun and cool.
Yeah.
And we set it up. It was so cute. We got pictures in there,
Yeah.
decorations. We organized all her lash stuff. We used her new business bank account to stock up on all her products. It was super cool, super cute, super fun. She'll
Yeah.
come over in the morning, wake me up, she'll bring tacos, we'll set up shop. I'll
Yeah.
get on the computer to work from home. There's people coming in and out. It was so fun, so
Yeah.
cool. Such a movie.
Yeah.
And I was making bank because the way I had kind of arranged the deal was, I understood that at the beginning she did not have much money coming in and she needed to set up struts. So we arranged it as I was getting a percentage of every dollar she made.
Okay.
So as she made more money, I made more money.
Right.
And on top of that, with me opening the lash studio in my home, she was paying me booth rent where she wasn't able to be a part of a salon. So I think I charged her like, I don't remember what the prices was, but if booth rent is $100 a week, I was charging her 70,
Yeah.
right? So I had multiple streams of income. I just graduated. I'm living my best life. So it
Yeah.
was cool. It was really cool. But then at some point things just kind of took a turn. Um, and we always knew she was going to graduate cosmetology school and we would have to pivot, right? And
Yeah.
I never saw it as, I'm just going to be hovering over your business forever. But for me, things took a turn around that fall. And if anyone remembers the fall of 2020, that is when the Paycheck Protection Program rolled out,
Right.
right? And a lot of people were very creative with that protection program. Now you can debate all day long if big white corporations were doing it, small Black businesses got punished harder, whatever. All I know is I went to business school, and I believe in business ethics.
Right.
So she brought up pretty much kind of trying to fabricate the application. I was not about it. I did not want my name attached to it. She didn't really bring it up that way, but I could tell she was picking my brain, and I made it very clear that I was not going to help with that at all.
Yeah.
So I think when I reflect, I think that's when our relationship started to break down a little. Like, and I noticed she would start like taking appointments outside of the studio. Like, she would come pick up things sometimes to go do a like an on-site appointment,
Mm,
which is fine. Like,
yeah.
I didn't have any ownership. I didn't expect to. I was just trying to help.
Yeah.
But so I would say around that started maybe around like September. I would say by like October, I was just seeing her less and less. A lot of like very weird interactions would happen. Like I told you she had a daughter. She was a single mother. Um, she started bringing the daughter and leaving her like in my living room while she did lashes for like 6 hours on end, and
Mhm.
I'm working. I don't know how to take care of a 2-year-old and I
Yeah.
didn't sign up for it. So
Yeah.
we had like some uncomfortable conversations and we just kind of started getting more and more apart. I started
Mhm.
seeing her less and less. Booth rents start coming up late,
Mm.
different things like that. And the $1 million lick comes in when literally, as I stated, I was her business manager. So I'm on all communications. I help set everything up. Most of her paperwork is being funneled through me, right? Everything's being
Mhm.
sent to me. I'm telling her what she needs to sign, sending it back. These are two different things, whether it's applying for credit, setting up the account, the LLC, getting communications. So one day I opened her email, her business email address that we both had access to, and there's an email that says that your account is frozen. There's immediate action needed. You need to go to the nearest Bank of America, and the balance stated negative $888,000, like 592 and 36 cents.
What? Okay.
Okay,
What?
I wake up to a 6 a.m. email that
Yeah.
says this, right?
Yeah.
So just the exact same thing you said is what I said.
Mm.
What? Like,
Yeah.
I never even seen that number in my life,
Yeah. Yeah.
let alone negative.
Yeah.
With my name on it. Like,
Yeah.
whoa. So I was like, whoa, 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 what the heck is going on? Obviously, I call her, I text her, nothing. And this is, some people are very responsive. This is the type of person who texts you back as soon as you text them every time. Like,
Mhm.
so like it's noticeably silent. Like no
Mhm.
calls, no texts, no Facebook, no Instagram. Like she hasn't taken an appointment at my house in probably 2 weeks or more at this point. So I'm like, you did this. Like,
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know what you did, but you
Mm.
did this, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I'm freaking out. Like I seek like legal counsel. I have a friend who's in law school at the time. I call her. She pretty much assures me like it's not your business, it's not your account. Best thing you can do is be cooperative with the bank so you don't look like you're involved. So I go to the bank. Um,
So this is a real email.
this is a real email from Bank of America. This is a certified. And
Okay.
and then let me also say about a week goes by before I take any action because I'm just scared and just calling people and
Mhm.
trying to figure out what the hell to do. So
Yeah.
I'm getting more emails and I'm getting calls and I'm getting messages
From Bank of
and
America.
yeah, and notifications from Bank of America. And the business card doesn't work. Like
Yeah.
it's very scary. Like
Yeah.
I literally was looking over my shoulder like the feds were about to come any moment.
Oh my
That's what
God.
I thought. I thought IRS or someone was coming to my door any moment.
Oh my God.
Um so I finally talked to my lawyer friend. I muster up the courage. I go to the bank and I tell them like, "Hey, what's up? What's this email? Like, I tell them what I told you. I
Yeah.
helped her. Said I'm the business manager. You can see on the accounts, she's the primary owner. I'm the manager. I'm authorized. I haven't heard from this person in weeks, and especially since this email came, I'm just trying to figure out like what's up. So they pretty much tell me they can't tell me anything. The guy, like, when you get to the bank, they come and they like pull up your account on the thing.
On the
He like,
computer and everything.
yeah, he's like, oh, here's your account number. And he's like, and he just like looks again, and he like looks at me again, and I'm like,
Oh my
is there a
God.
problem? Like, what does it mean? And he's like, okay, he's like, he starts asking me if I know people. He's like, do you know who? I'm just throwing names out. Like,
Hmm.
anyone, if this is your name, this is not what happened. I'm
Yeah,
just saying, like, I don't know if this name's in my head from a movie or what. He's
yeah,
like, do you know Sharina Hudson? I'm like, no. He's like, do you know Catherine Lee? I'm like, no. He's like, do you know Justine Moore? I'm like, no. All I know is blank blank, the person
yeah,
who owns this
yeah,
account that I helped set
yeah,
up. Um, I don't know these people. And he's like, I'm like, so what is this number? Like, what is this? Is there $1 million missing somewhere? Like, we didn't even move that much volume. We were making money, but
yeah,
thousands max.
yeah,
Um, and she spent so much it never even accumulated too.
yeah.
Um, so he's like, okay, he's like, first off, the account's fine. He's like, there's not 800 whatever $1,000 missing. He's like, this is an internal flag and it's a code for our representatives to know that this account is under investigation for digital fraud. And I'm like, oh shit. And he's like, have you been using Zelle to send money in and out of this account? And I'm like, no, I just have a debit card, like with my name on it, like whatever. So he's like, okay. So his hands are tied. And then he tells me, he's like, oh, do you have form 1234 or
Mhm,
whatever, which is
mhm,
like, there's a whole package of forms when you set up an account of,
mhm,
just consent, ownership, whatever, whatever. So months ago when we set up the account, like I said, I funnel all the paperwork to her, but she's a business owner.
yeah,
She needs to sign it, send it back. If she don't sign it, I don't sign it because it's
mm,
not my business.
yeah,
So there was this one form she never signed, and I had been on her over and over and over, but I think because the bank account worked and there she didn't care. Like she could
mm,
use her card, so it doesn't matter.
yeah,
Um, but she never signed it, so I never signed it, and I never turned it in
yeah,
because I didn't want anything with my name on it without hers when she's the owner.
yeah,
So that's the form he's asking for. And I'm like, actually, that form's in my car because I've been
mm,
trying to get this chick to sign it for months. So I
mhm,
bring it in, it's not signed. And he pretty much tries to pin me down to sign it.
mm,
And that's when I realized the bank had no recourse because they didn't follow the proper protocols. They
mm,
weren't supposed to allow us to use that account without that form being signed.
mm. Okay.
So they were actually liable for anything that happened in the account because they didn't follow the proper protocols. And
Yeah.
this was just like a very strange loophole because during COVID, they did all kinds of different stuff they didn't used to do. Like
Mm-hmm.
we opened this bank account over the phone and by mail. Like, I don't even know if you can still do that. They just send us a packet. We would talk to the teller every now and then. She would verify information, send it back. And this was one step that had never been completed, but the teller or whoever, probably wanting to have their numbers up to say they opened a new account,
Yeah.
they didn't follow the proper protocol. So I was off the hook.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, and I literally remember that from business law class. Like I remember it's like this I went to school in Louisiana. It's like this super southern twangy guy just talking about like contract law, and there's like five aspects of a contract, and if any one of them are not done, the whole contract is null and void.
Yeah.
So our whole contract with the bank, like that paper literally stated if anything happens, I'm responsible, not Bank of America.
Yeah.
So since that paper was never filed or notarized, especially before the digital fraud event,
Yeah.
they were liable and not me.
But did they ever? what exactly happened with that digital fraud? Like, did they ever find out what the case with that was?
I literally don't know.
Oh,
That's what's crazy. I never heard from that girl again.
you never heard from her ever
I
again?
never heard from her again.
Oh my God.
I will tell you, this year in like March, I got a random email from her like asking something about she needs to update the LLC information with the Secretary of State. But like I didn't see it for a week, and I emailed back like, "Do you need, what info do you need?" And she's like, "Well, I already went to the Secretary of State and fixed it."
Mm,
But that's a year and a half later.
that is
So
so
I don't know
weird.
what she was into.
Oh my God. So, did her studio then just stay there? Like, what happened with the studio in your apartment?
Okay. So actually, yeah, I did miss a part. So in the midst of all this, so the digital fraud emails maybe in November.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember it's October 17th because it was my sister's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of had a falling out, me and the girl,
Mm-hmm.
because I had a birthday party planned for my sister. It was her 30th. It was a big like milestone. I had
Yeah.
planned everything. We were doing everything. And me and her had certain agreements, if nothing's on the schedule, you don't come. Like she has a key to my apartment because it's her office too, but we had a certain respect. So October 17th, I told you this is when she started being sporadic too.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen her for a week, maybe 5 days. I don't even know.
Yeah.
October 17th, she just burst in the door with a client in
Mm-hmm.
the middle of my sister's birthday party.
Yeah.
And with her daughter and her little sister, who's like 8 and like very hyper and bouncing off the walls.
Yeah.
And lashes take hours.
Yeah.
So I went in there and I was like, yo, what are you doing? Like, where are they supposed to go? It's my
Yeah.
sister's birthday party right now. This is not okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. So she storms out. And then she comes back and gets her stuff like the next weekend or something.
Oh my God. And this is after the email with the
This is like a month before the email.
a month before the email. Okay. So then you don't hear from her for a month. You think you're done, and then you get that email. And then
Yeah.
literally from that point, you never hear from her again. Oh my God. Are
Yeah.
you dodged the bullet? Oh my God.
Girl, I thought I was going to jail.
Oh my,
Like, I thought I was gonna be paying for the rest of my life.
oh my God. But so what happened? Like what led to like your business? Like what happened?
Okay, yes, right. So that's the pre-origin story.
Yeah. Oh, but
So
oh my
all
God.
this shit happens, and like I'm not gonna lie, I took it hard. Like I get
Yeah.
depressed because you have a business. When you have a business, you pour so much into it, and like as a woman, like that's the first time I've birthed something, like literally ideas, plans, like I'm seeing it formulate. Like she was big, like she was locally like famous, like
Yeah.
people were stopping her on the highway because they knew her lashes, they knew her on social media. She
Yeah.
was booming, and I
Yeah.
was like the person behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And so all that was gone, and it was kind of like, well, like it felt like I did all of it for nothing, even though it was all still happening. I was just no longer attached to it.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, I just felt so betrayed.
Yeah.
Like
Of course.
we were
Yeah.
like birthday twin friends. Like,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I did go through a very, like, I would say probably through the holiday season, I was just very depressed. Like,
Mhm.
and me and my sister kind of had been at odds. I was just feeling very lonely, and I felt like leaning into this friendship was a way to like be fulfilled in that way. Um, but at some point, I don't know, like it's like I just was like, I just realized, I was like, no, she didn't do that. You did that. You
Yeah.
built that business. Like
Yeah.
you're making however much a month she's making. Like she
Yeah.
could not do that without you.
Yeah.
And I realized I can help anyone do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I tell people I started her business on accident. Like it was
Yeah.
literally just like, oh, what should we do next? Like, let's do an
Yeah.
LLC. Like,
Yeah.
no plan, no strategy. Like, I'm
Yeah.
just pulling stuff out of like my college. I'm learning stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was just like, wow, how much more could I do? One, if I didn't have this like I would say like difficult client, because it was a lot of times where now I realize she didn't want to do things by the book because she wanted to do sketchy things.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, it was like a lot of times simple things. Just get this paperwork done. Just you should do it this way. Do your business expenses here. Don't use Cash App. It was always like I couldn't get her on the same page. So I was like, how much could I do with a client who's actually listening to me too?
Yeah.
And how much better could I do for myself? Like there's certain choices I thought were better that I wanted to make, but it's her business. So, she has the final say. So even things like design and color and, content schedule and, just things like that. So it just dawned on me like, no, girl, you did that. You're the only reason she has a business. You are that girl
Yeah.
and you need to protect yourself. That's when my business school, business law brain kicked in too,
Yeah.
where I was like, you're out here unprotected. So at the least, if you're going to be exploring and trying to help people, like you need to file your paperwork. So if someone hits $1 million lick on a bank account with your name on it,
Mm-hmm.
you're good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it really just started as kind of a defense mechanism to protect myself.
Yeah.
Um, and then I was like, okay, well now I have I'm incorporated, so why don't I actually make a business out of it? Like,
Oh,
so that's how I started Ari Talks Tech.
oh my God. Oh my God. You just took me through a roller coaster.
I know, like it's just saying it out loud. It sounds crazy. I can't believe it.
Like, it makes me want to cry a little bit. I don't know why.
It's very emotional. It's
Yeah.
very emotional.
It's a very emotional story, I think, because sometimes you like, you know, you just like really, all you want to do is like really help people, right? Like, you just really want to help somebody, like, help them, you know, achieve what they want to achieve, go after
Yeah.
what they want to go after. And then, like, and then you get something that's so scary, right? That like you did out of like your own goodness of your heart, that you really wanted to see someone grow. And it's scary to know that people take advantage of your goodness, of the goodness of your heart, and like, and then you end up being the one paying the consequences after. I mean, it's, thank God that 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 paper wasn't
hmm
signed, right? Thank God.
hmm
Really, I feel like that's God protecting you.
Yeah, me too.
Um, because that would have just been,
It would have ruined my life.
yeah, like it would have like really been like, it's just insane. So, and then for you to like realize like, okay, you you know that you could help somebody in that capacity, and now you are like, you're doing it on your own, you're trusting your gut, right? Like you're trusting your decisions,
hmm
and it led you to create something that's secure, that's safe, you're protecting yourself. Um, but it really is an emotional story to go through, for that, for then that to be like the reason why you pursue something that, yeah, you still want to help people, you still want to make a difference, right? And you realize that you did do a difference, even though somebody tried to like take that away from you, like,
hmm 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 And that's why it's so emotional for me. And it's like the fire under me
yeah,
because for me, it was like it's crazy. It literally was like an origin story. Like,
yeah,
like something terrible happens, like their
yeah,
parents die in front of them and they're just like in
yeah,
a dark room and then they're just like,
yeah,
because it just made me realize my power at the same
Yeah.
time, because at first I was so like dumbfounded and flabbergasted, like how could you physically, spiritually, like, oh, be okay with doing that to someone,
Yeah.
especially someone who literally your life was like this and now it's like this. Like,
Yeah.
I literally just, I'm like, you're a Black woman, you're young, you're a single mother, like your life can be better. And I
Mhm.
made it better. And then
Yeah.
you turn around and try to ruin mine.
Yeah.
Like, but
Yeah.
on top of it, I think this is a part of entrepreneurship that I want to touch on a little bit because for me at least, I would say I was very naive when I got into entrepreneurship. And I think that sometimes we're so busy trying to improve ourselves and help people and help our lives that we can't think about how other people think. And
Mhm.
I will say that taught me a good lesson at the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey that has only come up again and again and more. And that's the envy that people
Mhm.
have.
Mm. Yeah.
And there is a dark side to entrepreneurship
Yeah. Yeah.
because, I mean, I right now, someone who I thought was going to be my best friend for life, I don't think we're friends anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not, I'm not even talking about that person. This is another recent, I
Yeah.
start ascending and they start being very different,
Yeah.
very ugly, very hurtful on
Mhm.
purpose. They try to bring you down a peg
Yeah.
because unfortunately a lot of people, one, aren't happy,
Mhm.
and two, they don't have what it takes to bet on themselves. And when they see you do it and it work,
Yeah.
they can't handle it. And they
Yeah.
honestly physically like have to bring you down a peg because in their eyes, they're seeing themselves as being down a peg from you.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
you're just doing what you're like, this is in my heart. This, I never once in my entrepreneurial journey thought like, oh yeah, all you have is a job. I have a business. I'm shitting on
Yeah.
you. Like I
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
I never thought of it that way, but I noticed like this one particular friend I'm talking about, it was little things at first and then it just got so obvious where it's rude, and it's like it would be things where, people ask me where we're hanging out, oh, how's the business doing? I'm like, oh my God, I got my first client. She'll come stand in front of me and interrupt and change the subject.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, like even though you were encouraging me or whatever, because you didn't really think it was going to become anything.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I will say entrepreneurship is hard because it shows you people's true colors, and sometimes you're not ready for the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking about that. Not like I mean, I think about it every now and then, but I every now and then I think about how since I started my business, since I've been on this path to wanting to create something and really help people, that there are folks in my circle that I had always had for a very long time that are very supportive and like come and support you in different ways, whatever that looks like. But there's they show support, and there's people like you said, crickets, like crickets. And I think about specific people that I'm like, you wish that
Mm-hmm.
you would have expected that they also, because of like the friendships that you have, that they would support in whatever way. Doesn't matter how, but sharing or talking to people about like
Yeah.
whatever. And I realized that in those in this journey that I've had to, even before this, well, but mostly I guess like in this journey for me as in entrepreneurship, is that I've had to grapple with being okay with letting people go. And these are people that I, like you said, at one point I've thought that they would be best friends forever. right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I had to come to that decision, not only because, or not because I was petty, I'm like they didn't show any support, not because of that. I think it was more of like, I had, even before the entrepreneurship, I already had feelings of like,
Mm-hmm.
why do I sometimes feel like this person is always like, in not abruptly and not bluntly,
Mm-hmm. Passive
feeling like,
aggressive.
yeah, like feeling like there's like a need to um like bring you down a little bit, like,
Yes.
like when you share when you share a dream, when you share like something
Yeah.
you want to do, and it's like kind of dismissed,
Yep.
and I've
Yep.
known a lot of people, not a lot, but I've known a few people in my time since grad school where I realized like there are folks like that who are just that way in general, and it's really
Mm-hmm.
and if you like, I had a friend who uh I met here, and from the beginning of our friendship, from the very first beginning that I met, I had this feeling that this person did not was like felt like maybe they were in competition with me or something. But
Yeah.
it's like I never like
You don't think of
I
it that way.
yeah, I don't think of it that way, but to me, I was like, "Oh, it's just in my head," like you're trying to justify it yourself. You're like, "No, like let that go. That's just whatever." And then, throughout years, like later you realize, like I realized, like, no, there were many times in our relationship where the respect and the nurturing
Mm-hmm.
of our relationship was one way. It was me giving
Mm-hmm.
it person, and it was never reciprocated.
Yep.
Uh, and so, when it came to, there was a point, and I'm thinking about a particular person who I actually brought this up to them, and I actually, it's like, hey, like you're my friend, and I kind of felt this way, and I felt like during this time you were being this way, and completely dismissed my feelings, completely
Mm-hmm.
got defensive, got guarded,
Mm-hmm.
and I that really hurt me because I
Yeah.
really felt like we actually had a friendship, and in the end it wasn't. Like now I've realized that maybe my friendship, or whatever, however they viewed our friendship, was more of a, how does their friendship benefit me?
Yep.
And I like that hurt because obviously you're not, when you're friends with some, like, I mean, I don't think of it that way,
Yeah.
but that person, I realized, like, they are very defensive, and they and so i I had to let that friendship go. I had to get closure on it, but I get, every now and then, like, I feel really um sad about, like, letting go of people and friendships that you, like, it's like breaking up, right? Like you think like
Yeah.
somebody is, there
Yeah.
for you. It's actually like they want the best for you, and in reality that was never the case. So
For me, I personally, like, I'm a very sensitive person, but for me, it's worse than breaking up because for me, it's and this may be dramatic, but this is how I process it. It's the realization that this whole friendship was a lie.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because to me, like, I never really sat down. What am I getting from this person? What are they getting from
sure,
me? Blah, blah, blah. But then when you realize like they've been like kind of manipulating it the whole time, or they, like, for me, a big part of a lot of my friendships changing too is that I come from a, underserved background or whatever. I come from a single mother. I come from probably the lowest income bracket in our city, but I'm a stellar person and I've been able to use my skills and talents to achieve things that get me into certain environments, like,
Mhm.
scholarships to private college, to study abroad, all these things. But for me, it was just become exposing myself to these worlds that I knew were possible and existed. And maybe we couldn't afford it, but I could use what I had to even get a taste of it just for that motivation to
Yeah,
get there. But the flip side of that is sometimes in those spaces, there are these elite people who that's their space where they're used to being in. And they almost see you like, oh, you're like the little poor girl, you're the little scholarship
mm,
girl. But when that changes, when I graduate with a technology degree
yeah,
and my starting income's here,
mhm,
or when I start a business in a
mhm,
year and you've been trying to make Instagram happen for 4, and in the
mhm,
first 6 months, I'm getting VIP clients.
mhm,
And at the same time, I've been going through this whole weight loss journey. So every time you see me, I'm looking better. Like
yeah,
I
yeah,
am, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? And this is that same particular friend that I just recently had the realization. It's like, no, she liked you like this. I think
mhm,
that's the problem. I don't think
yeah,
it's, and I don't know if it's conscious or not, but I think it's she liked you here. You were like this. It was kind of like it makes her feel like a good person. Like I have like a poor
yeah,
friend. I'm
mhm,
down to earth. Like I have a black friend. But
mhm,
then when you start to, I never saw myself like that. I've always been that girl in my head. I've always
mhm,
been bougie. I just
yeah,
couldn't afford it. Like, and
yeah,
so then when I start to manifest this life I've always known, and I'm getting the reception I am, and I don't have to manipulate people. I don't have to use my body for attention. I don't have to do all these things. I'm self-sustaining. I would love to, but I don't have to rely on my husband,
yeah,
to live. Some people, I noticed that too. It's kind of, for me, it took me a while to understand, but being in these spaces with these elite people, a lot of them are not self-sustaining adults.
mhm,
Like, I mean, it's literally you've been spoon fed from childbirth and then you just transferred to a husband. And
mhm,
there's nothing wrong with that. That's not even in their control. But personally, I always wish I had that.
yeah,
But sometimes they see someone like me and it infuriates them
mhm,
because they could never survive life
yeah, yeah,
without this support system. So for me to, one, be surviving, two, thriving, and three, surpassing what
yeah,
they've been able to do with all the privileges they have.
yeah,
I mean, I've seen people turn into completely different people with me. And
yeah,
I realize it's because I'm not the little charity case pet anymore.
mhm,
I'm
mhm,
a real woman.
yeah,
I have respect. I have clients. I have a real business. I have a
yeah,
real high demand skill set, and
yeah,
they can't take it.
yeah, yeah. And those are the people that you know you can't have in your life. And you start to realize that when you do start to create that life that it's not that you created a life, it's just like you said, it's there. It's just now you have the resources. Now you're actually
Yeah.
able to believe in yourself, to actually invest in the things you want to invest in that make your life easier, right?
Hmm.
That allow you to grow, that allow you to continue growing. And yeah, sometimes it just takes that change, that shift, to kind of, like you said, see when people start to change around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have a few questions just around the the I guess force behind it. Like that was very emotional, right? Like to allow you to see, like, I have all this power. I almost it almost felt like, I don't know if it almost felt like you were almost losing it when you like had it all along, and like the fear of that made you realize that. And in the process of, like, now your current stage now, What would you say for somebody that's just starting? What would you say is the best thing for somebody? What helps them to keep going, to keep motivated, to pursue the passions that they want to do for their business, and basically like inspire?
Hmm. That's a good question. Okay, just a second. I'm gonna turn my other lights on because it's getting dark here. Just a second.
Okay.
Lighting in my apartment is so weird. It always looks so dark, but it's literally not at all. But whatever. Okay, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, like what would you say to somebody who is wants to get to that point of they have built something, they've created something, right? They had like I guess they had an idea or or thought in their head, and now like how what would you say to someone that perhaps doesn't see that vision come to life, and but to continue to keep going anyway, like because I think sometimes it's hard to visualize where you could be when
Mm-hmm.
you create something. When you don't visualize that, it's hard to really keep that momentum going. So I guess the question is like, what um what is the momentum for you that helps you to keep going?
Okay, great question. Um, so so I'm gonna do that annoying thing when people answer the question the exact way you don't want them to. But for me, one thing I had to learn is that sometimes the answer is not to keep going.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like
So
say more.
because okay, because there's another origin story where for me that whole thing happened in, let's say, November, whatever. I remember I filed my paperwork on 1/1/21.
Hmm.
Um, but you and I met in September of that year.
In 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't have shit done for
Hmm.
my business.
Hmm.
And I actually had ended up having a mental breakdown that year.
Mm,
And for me, my thing was I just the thing with the business partner is set off a series of events
yeah.
that my life, I was not happy with my life. I was living reactionary. I was living based on what I thought I should be doing, not what I wanted to be doing. I was living based off what other people told me to do. And I always had these things in the back of my head that I wanted that I suppressed.
Hmm.
And that's in everything, relationships with people, letting guys who don't deserve me have me, not pursuing my spirituality, which is really important to me, um, being in a toxic job,
Hmm.
even when everyone else was quitting, for some reason I was refusing to quit and just taking it.
Hmm.
And it all piled up for me. And I mean, I went to a mental hospital
Mm.
because I wanted to end my life.
Oh, yeah.
So I think, to me, I know that is the single most important event
Hmm.
that gives me fire every day when I wake up,
Mm.
because I realized through that process that I did not want to die, but
Yeah.
I did not want my life.
Yeah.
Right? So in life, we're curating a life. Sometimes it feels like we don't have any power, or things happen to us, but we're actually curating our life every moment by moment, every day.
Mhm.
And the life I curated I had done so much things that everyone else wanted that I just wanted to opt out because I was not about any of it. Like even literally things as simple as the way my apartment was arranged. I
Mhm.
didn't even like it.
Mhm.
I didn't like my space. I didn't like my clothes. I didn't like my body. I didn't like my job. I didn't like the guys I was talking to. I didn't like the status of my relationship with my family. I didn't
Mhm.
like my spiritual emptiness.
Mhm.
And these were just things that I had kept ignoring and ignoring and ignoring because other people's influences, or I didn't want to look a certain way, or whatever. I'll just go drink in Dallas and have fun. Like, but I'm
Mhm.
not really having fun. I'm trying to escape my life every day. Like,
Uh-huh.
so I mean, that is like the biggest pause you can take. So I know most people don't know how mental institutions work. So I do want to break that down a little bit here. Um, so, um, so there's inpatient and there's outpatient. So if you've ever seen the movie Girl Interrupted, that's inpatient, where you go there, you live there. I don't know if I want to
Yeah.
call it a sentence, but they pretty much tell you based off of the state you're in, how long you're going to be in there. Now, with inpatient, there's two ways. There's voluntary and involuntary. So when you see people getting dragged away, like,
Well, I'm a social worker, so I worked in mental health. I was
okay,
at a hospital. I don't know if
I
you
think
knew
you
that.
told me that. I think you
Yeah,
did tell me that.
yeah. So I was
Okay.
outpatient. I was outpatient. But
Okay.
as
Okay.
a social
Okay.
worker, I had a few patients who would be admitted into the inpatient setting, but at that point, because the acuity of their symptoms was more severe, right?
Mm-hmm.
The the social worker changed. So that's
Mm-hmm.
we worked in as a team. But so totally know what you're talking about.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Yeah. Most people don't. I did not know shit about this until I was in there.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
wait, what the hell is going on?
yeah, yeah.
So I went voluntarily, obviously. Like I drove myself. I wasn't beyond,
Mhm.
but I had what you call suicidal ideation, which means like pretty much I was so unhappy that these very scary thoughts started to trickle in. And
Yeah.
day by day, they became the dominant thoughts in my head to the point
Mhm.
where I had plans. I had multiple plans.
Mm,
I had evaluated how successful the plans would be to accomplish my goal.
mm,
I was wanting to take my dog with me. Like it was very real.
mm.
So I checked and the way I ended up checking myself in is that I was Googling like, oh, what's a mental institution? How do you know if you need to go? So like first
Oh,
off, if you're Googling that, guys, go.
yeah. I mean, it is it's a like the thing is it becomes like you are aware of that. You're very, very aware of the acuity of that state.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the good thing is that you were able to like in a way you self-helped yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I kind of did on accident. So I was Googling like how do you know you should go, and like everything they said is like every symptom I had. So
Yeah.
then I was Googling what is the best rated ones in my city because my biggest fear is, oh, they're gonna pump me full of drugs and hold
Mm,
me down and crazy people are gonna be screaming all night.
mhm.
So when I did that, the website they had like a chat helpline.
Yeah.
So I was like asking them questions, and then they're asking me questions back. And I don't remember the questions, but apparently the way I was answering them was a red alert.
Mhm.
And they were like, yo, we're sending people to pick you up right now, like
Mhm.
right now, like
Mhm.
they're on their way. So I got scared because they were sending the cops and
Mhm.
like whoever. And I was just like all the George Floyd stuff had happened. I live in Texas. Like I
Yeah.
was like that honestly, that's the moment I realized I didn't want to die in the
Yeah.
weirdest way because I was like, what? They're gonna kill me. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, I packed like some weird makeshift bag and I drove there on my own. Ended up being in there for 8 days, and then I did outpatient for like a few months. But anyway, back to what was my motivation and why I sat the fire under me. I remember because when you go into a place like that, you shut everything off. They take your phone. They you just it's unlike any experience most people have ever had because you can shut out the noise and like it's crazy because it felt like so long. I can't believe I was only in there for 8 days. Like I came out a new version of myself and I was still not like what you call stable.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say I finally let myself fall apart for the first time.
Mm. Yeah.
And when I got out, I could not stop thinking about Ari Talks Tech.
Mm.
That was the only thing I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
When I got out, I wanted to quit my job. I didn't want to talk to my family. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to talk to my friends. I didn't even want to come home. I didn't like the way the space felt, but it's my apartment.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to go hang out. I didn't want to go see people. I had like one or two friends I wanted to talk to, and they live in other states. But I wanted to do RA Talks Tech so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Oof. Ari. You sharing your story, like, I want to say just like how brave you are, because it truly is a testament to just, so we don't know, right? Like, we don't, we just don't know people, right? We don't know what battles they're fighting. We don't know what's going on. Um, but just you sharing your story, like, it is so brave. And I just like, I hope, I hope you get to share this story. Like, if you ever feel, you know, like called to do it, like I hope you do it because it is really like talking about this is really, really hard, right? So like it gets, but when you put yourself in, when you share that story, like sometimes it can remind people that they're not alone, that this is something that happens. And that's why, like, self-care, mental health, all of that, like putting boundaries around yourself, really putting yourself first and like prioritizing healing.
Seeking help from someone else.
Yes, like asking for help, like all of those things are so important, and why I truly believe that people, especially like in communities of color where we
Yep.
have there's like a stigma sometimes around mental health and
Mm-hmm.
that is, and you know we tend to suppress everything, and there's already so much trauma that we don't even know that we're carrying, that does hold us back literally from doing the things that you really, really wish you could do, right?
Yep.
And until you address that, until sometimes, like, the way that you felt that, like, overflowness, like, I like what I imagine is like you flooding with emotion. When that happens, that's when we can no longer ignore that. We can, like,
Yep.
you know and when you do realize, like, okay, this is, I need to address this, that's when you can begin to really uh live in your fullest self and your fullest power and your full authentic self, because before that, you're living, like you said, someone else's vision,
Yeah. I
someone else.
wasn't even a real person.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
like,
literally not a real person. I was like, if I meet you and you're like this and you like this, I'm like this and I like this. Like
yeah,
I I wasn't even showing up to life as myself.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, what you say, like, what I'm hearing is, I mean, sometimes our bodies will tell us, will let us know when this is no longer what I
Yep.
can continue to hold into my body. I can no longer continue holding trauma, holding um thoughts, anything, no longer, because you literally will, like, of like, who knows what. But I'm so glad that you sought the help you needed, and I'm grateful to you and your story. And like, I mean, I hope one day you feel brave, and I mean you are, but like that you share it, you know?
Yeah. Well, I want to. So actually, that's, I'm a project manager. So I'm already planning my Q1 for next year, and that's the next phase I'm about to enter, is to just really exposing myself and sharing my story. Like, I wanted to have a business model, a proven business model, and kind of, I've done trial and error of what I want to offer and not,
Yeah.
before I start just like opening the floodgates, because I do feel like my story is so powerful that people
It
are
is.
going to like flock to it.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, all in due time, right? Because you you want to stay grounded to your needs, to who you are, right?
Yeah.
And know that you always have like the support system wherever you can to really talk through anything that you want to brainstorm, whatever. But all like all in due time, like take your time, there's no rush, you know. But whenever you do feel called to share, to whatever comes to you, like do it, you know, like if that's something,
Yeah.
you know.
I
um
used to be scared, but I'm actually excited to like share it with people.
yeah.
I feel like people need to know. I definitely agree that Black people and Black women do not. I just think that the conversation around mental health, even just emotional awareness,
Mm-hmm.
um, even just people can't even admit to themselves like how bad their lives have been,
Yeah.
let alone like heal from it.
Yeah.
And I think that there is a huge awakening happening. And that's why for me, like I even wrote on my board, like it's called Ari Talks Tech, but it's really a mental health company disguised as a tech company.
Mm,
So that's why I tell, like, my thing is like I really feel like what I do is provide peace of mind and more
mhm.
time in
Yeah.
your life,
Yeah.
because people do not have peace of mind. It's
Yeah.
actually the rarest thing in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And just, I mean, if you're like those, that's part of your story. It's like your values, right? Like mental health, self-care, really understanding how you also are a person. Like, and that's the way that I frame it, is like sometimes we forget that we are people ourselves. Like we have to see ourselves outside of ourselves, right? And like how
Yeah.
they coach yourself, talk to yourself as if you were literally another person.
Yeah.
Because you are a person, and you can also put yourself in the list of priorities that where maybe your sister is, where your family is. Like, yeah, you care about them, you love them, you'll do anything for them, but you also do anything for Ari, you know?
Yes.
So adding yourself to that list, it's like literally like, for me, that's the way that I envision it, or how I imagine like prioritizing myself, is like me literally writing down a list of people that, you know, I'm there for no matter what, right? I want to help, and I'm on that list too.
Yes, you're at the top
You're at
because
the
you can't
top.
help anyone if
Yeah,
you're limping along.
yeah, yeah. So, but I want to thank you for sharing your story. Like that was a heck of a story.
Yeah, I'm
You shared
excited.
so
Thank you
much.
for this because I have never like just sat down and said all that. Like,
Yeah.
it's actually insane.
I'm surprised that that I mean, I'm not, because I will say, like, in our healing journey, sometimes you don't realize how you've never said out loud the things that have really hurt you,
Yeah.
you know? I like in my own healing process, in my own healing journey, like the same thing where there was a moment where I realized I could no longer suppress the trauma that I held inside.
Hmm.
And I realized that after, like, I had been with my therapist for 4 years, 4 years around that time. And I realized that so the way my body was talking to me when I could no longer hold this trauma was I couldn't sleep.
Mm.
I I had thoughts of like my past trauma,
Hmm.
and I would like have moments of like anxiety where I had to physically stop and breathe because
Mm.
I felt out of air, which
Yeah.
never happened to me in my life. Like had
Hmm.
never happened to me in my life. And I was like, I'm being triggered. I understand I'm being triggered. And I'm like, as a social worker, right? Like I know that, like I understand like how the brain and your mind work and your body works. And it dawned on me, I'm like, I have a therapist. And I literally texted my therapist. It was like 4 in the morning. And I was like, I need to talk to you. And I need to talk to you because I'm having a very, very high anxiety. And I need to talk to you about this trauma that I never said out loud in my life, you know?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And so, and after that is like when when we talked, saying everything out loud made me realize how I had buried it so, so deep to the point where you don't even feel it. Now
Hmm.
when you're like saying it and addressing it, it's bringing up so much pain that
It's
all you can
fresh.
do,
It's like it
yeah,
just happened.
yeah, and like, and that to me, that's why I think about a healing, because that is a first step for me that I believe is really necessary for people to want to live in in their authentic selves.
Yeah.
Um, but even that, like for me, my process has been like where I let my husband know. I let my family know, like this is what's going on. This is what happened. And
Hmm.
that has been so liberating. And to
Yes.
share that, right? But in with time, right? Like
Yeah.
healing process is there. And so that's why for you to I like share your story and like that to me really spoke, because it's like when you say out loud your experiences and your healing and something that was like very, very eye-opening, it's so hard. It's so
Yeah.
hard to do that.
Yeah.
So you're amazing. Right?
Thank you.
I'm just so glad you shared your story with me, and like
Thank you.
it just proves that healing is a part of that process of wanting to of being able to uh go after what you want, what you love.
Hmm. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you really can't even like, I think a big misconception people have is like, when I get this or get that, then I'll be happy. Or
Yeah.
when I fill in the blank. Some
Yeah.
people it's have a kid, a family. Some people it's a degree, a job. Like, I think what a lot of people don't realize though is like you're acting out of a trauma response.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
most of your desires are coming from some weird suppressed like pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's actually the opposite. Like I was that person. I checked everything off the list. Like,
Mhm.
and after that whole situation, since June 21st, I still know June 21st, 2021,
Yeah.
I dedicated every ounce of energy to becoming a happy person.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as a result of that, I have achieved more than I even thought my business or my personal life could do.
Yeah. 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 It's about perspective, right? Like it's like removing sunglasses that were clouding just like everything you that is there for you to go after. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so glad you shared. Like, you took me on a ride, but it was
Good.
a
I was
great
like,
ride.
I'm so glad thank you for making this space because like as soon as I saw that email said like I want to know your origin story, I was like, oh, I have got to tell her mine because
Oh,
it is a doozy.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. The reason why I record is because, I go back and I look and I'm like, oh my God, that it just there's things that you catch later, right? Or you like create. Is it okay if I reach out if there's any other questions and like, something comes up and I have questions about something? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And you can, I don't know if you're gonna like cut this up into clips or content or whatever, but feel free. Feel free to do whatever you want with it.
Okay. Thanks, Ari. So let me stop recording. I'm gonna show you the